Okay, and we are live now. Let me post this really quickly. But in the meantime, good night, everybody. I'm really glad that we finally been able to get this connection going because I know that this is something that we're all very passionate about and that we've all been waiting to see happen, and there have been some difficulties along the way, but I think this is a really good way for us to start off, to be able to have this discussion. And I must say that I'm very eager to hear what's going to be shared. So because the video is being recorded, I think it's fit for me to just give a quick info, I guess, about our Let's School and the Global Youth Ambassador Initiative, and then before we begin. So this would be obviously for for people that come on to watch. So it's gonna sound weird with me explaining to you guys who you are, but you understand. So I've written something really quickly that I just want to share, just some background. And what I have is saying that a World of Schools is an international organization that is purpose to bring to attention 57 million children worldwide that are out of school. And then we know that there are millions more that are in school but are still not learning. So I started this initiative called the Global Youth Ambassadors, and that is why we are here tonight. And I guess we've been charged now to make noise for education, as they stated, to urge the leaders in our countries and our regions to raise educational budgets in order to train teachers and to build schools and to improve learning, generally speaking. And I'm very privileged and blessed to be able to communicate with you guys because from hearing from you in the past, I know that most of us have founded or are a part of some organization that reaches out and that goes out there and gets things done, in small ways and large ways, but however possible. And I must say that it is very intimidating what we do when you look at it, because a lot of times people are not as interested and they don't see education as such a priority. So it's definitely a great thing to be in the midst of you guys who I can share a passion for education with, and seeing education just take off in the to reach to reach many more children who have of a lack of access to education for various different reasons. And now we know that today is a very special day because this is the International Day of the African Child, and we are commemorating the the event that took place in Soweto in South Africa on June 16th, 1976, when 10,000 black students were protesting for a better quality of education, and they wanted the right to be taught in their own language. And throughout that time frame, hundreds of those students were shot, they were killed, and thousands were injured. So now we're a part of this movement that is reaching out to just to fight for the rights of children not only in Africa but all around the world. So like I said, once again, I can't stress the fact that I'm really, really glad to have this opportunity. So what we can do now is we can get into it because it's very important that I hear from you guys. I wanna hear exactly, you can introduce yourself and say who you are. Anybody can go first, and also what do you think are the main problems with education in your country? And after you've gotten through those, then you can also say what you're doing or what you would like to do in order to to assist with the solution to the problems that are being faced in your country.
Okay, shall I go first then? So,
Sure.
good evening. So, my name is Imara Radix, and I am Grenadian, but also Guyanese. And currently, I run my own NGO. It's called the S4 Foundation, empowering women and girls in Guyana across the different regions of Guyana. We do so through skills training, face-to-face exercises, training seminars, and different things like that. We also go and do outreach to communities, teaching women and girls about domestic violence and abuse and human trafficking. And we deal with victims of human trafficking. So we help them in any kind of way that we can. We also do counseling. So what I'm doing, I go to different schools and teach children about gender-based violence and abuse and where they can get help, how we can help them. I take my volunteers there as well so that other young people can get that kind of experience with their peers and to talk about that kind of education, especially with women and girls. For Guyana, we're facing many barriers, as the Caribbean as well. We're facing many barriers. Lack of skilled, trained, and qualified teachers is a really huge drawback. Lack of access to education, especially with Guyana being such a large country in the Caribbean. We have many regions that are very hard to get into, especially the hinterland communities. The Amerindian communities are particularly marginalized. They'll have one school that serves 16 villages, and the children have no transportation, they have no shoes, they have to walk there. Maybe there's one volunteer teacher. If there's no teacher, there's no school. And I've seen this going into different communities. Um, Also, if the parents don't have enough money, economics plays a huge factor when it comes to the children being able to go to school. Sometimes the parents will go and spend money on partying, all different things, and not send the children to school. We have child labor here as well, some children working in the mining camps. We also have victims of human trafficking, very, very young girls who are sent into the interior, ostensibly to work in shops, but then they just end up being prostitutes in the mining camps. We have a huge issue in the Caribbean as well, not just in Guyana, of brain drain. All the young people who are getting qualified, they're leaving in droves because the government offers no incentives for them to stay. All the skilled labor is leaving. So there's no one left to build our countries and our communities and emphasize the need for education. What I'm doing through my foundation, the work that I had discussed before, but to mark this same Day of the African Child, I will be going to Region 6 in Berbice, and I will be doing the launch of our literacy program with 200 children from the surrounding communities of Berbice, and this will be permanent. I've met with teachers in the community who are willing to go on a roster system to volunteer their time. I'll also be taking volunteers with me to show them an educational film and teach them more about a world at school and safe schools. And I actually intend to, wait, hold on, to use this. I don't know if you guys can see. I have a copy of the Youth Advocacy Toolkit, which I'm going to share with youth in Berbice to teach them how they can mobilize through the toolkit and give them copies of the toolkit as well. And we're going to do reading groups with these children and hopefully play some games and have a good time with them. But this will be every week, every Sunday, they're going to have educational classes with basic literacy. And we're setting up 2 libraries as well. So community libraries with the support of the communities, they're going to help us build it. And we've already started. And that's enough for me. So who's next?
Okay, great. Leroy, who's also from Guyana, he is on my Skype right now because he has had difficulties getting onto the Google Hangout, but he's going to share next. You can go on, Leroy.
Thank you very much, Jonathan. Um, to the organizers. I am Leroy Phillips, one with a disability for 17 years now. Just a little introduction about myself. I am involved in blind cricket locally and regionally. I am also a freelance producer for 3 years in counting and a disability advocate. And adding to what Imara perhaps mentioned, if I got that correct, Diana is somewhere in the first place of an education in the various aspects. But one of the areas that is not receiving great attention is inclusive education, where you talk about persons with disabilities having the right to participate in school or learning institutes as normal individuals. Um, Quite often, what you find in Guyana, the school themselves are not being designed um, in an applicable way so that persons in the various having various types of disabilities can attend school on a day-to-day basis like everyone else. Inclusive education basically speak about all these things I've mentioned. A person with a disability attending school as per normal, not being classified as a different individual and doing uh, work completely different to the other counterparts and achieving goals like anyone else. Because in the long run, there is a road to cross, and that road can definitely be to employment. That road can definitely areas recreational facilities or health facilities, which is often not accessible for them. And I hope you can hear me clear because this is coming through Skype to the Google Hangout. And through my involvement with some of the other organizations with this for persons with disabilities, we are working, endlessly or tirelessly behind the Minister of Education and our ministry to try and design the school curriculum and school facilities in a way that they can accommodate for persons with disabilities. We get policy in place that tells schools or tell the minister itself or the government that look, you're going to design schools to reach that facility standard to accommodate persons with disability so that we can attend and learn like normal person. I think most of this I can add for now, my introduction. And some people don't agree with some of the solutions to this, but I know we can continue with some of the solutions based on what my organizations or organizations that I'm part of, we currently do a lot of activity in not only for school design, yeah, but we first started target uh, designing or formatting curriculum that cater for those people with disabilities and go on and that topic. Back to you, Stefan.
Okay, great, great, great. Wow. I'm always inspired when I hear from you because we take a lot of things for granted, and that's quite a disability to live with. But I will get back to that. But Tyrell, you can now add
Okay,
before we
hello, good
go.
night. Hello, good night.
Good.
Okay, I am Cyril Gittins and I'm from Trinidad and Tobago. So I haven't been able in the past few months since being appointed as an ambassador to do anything that substantial because I had examinations. So that was time consuming. I currently have a blog, but I want to start planning my first foundation that will help promote education throughout the school in Trinidad and Tobago. I have spoken to someone from the Ministry of Youth Development a few months ago, and they were interested in hearing what project ideas I had, but again, because of exams, it was kind of time consuming. So now I want to network with Latoya to see how far I could take the idea of the ground and see if I can do something in the next few months that could hopefully make an impact. And that's my conclusion for now. But I commend
All
all
right,
of you all
that's not bad at all.
for all the wonderful work you all are doing. It's very inspiring to hear.
Well, what I appreciate is that you have the drive and you're honest. You know your limits. You've been preoccupied with your examination, so that's nothing to frown upon. I actually applaud you for knowing your limits and for prioritizing because that's where a lot of youth workers, that's where the downfall lies because it's really a heavy load and to be able to balance other aspects of your life along with it, it can really sometimes get hectic. So I'm trying to get somebody else into the conversation right now, but in the meantime, I will share. So my name is Stefan Evans. I'm from the Bahamas, and I would say the Bahamas. One our main issue. There are many, but the main issue is the students that are enrolled in school are simply not learning. We have a grading system and a school system that is based off of the Britain education system, and that is because we were once a British colony. And what's happened is students spend absolutely no qualifications. They and it's not always their fault, because there is the lack of attention that the students would pay in school. They wouldn't be focused, and but there's also the fact that the teachers, they aren't well trained, so they don't, and I don't mean to be offensive, but they don't gear the lessons toward the slowest learner, but rather the wittiest and the most brilliant person in the class would be the one who would succeed at the end of the day, leaving the ones that are just not generally as bright behind. And it's very unfortunate because if we're striving for equality, if we're striving for everybody to be able to have access to the same things, then it doesn't matter what your level of brightness is or how quickly you pick up on certain things. Everybody should have access to the same things. And another issue is the quality of the education is not very good in the public education system, which in most of the students in the country are a part of. So basically, if you don't have a lot of money, it's really difficult to get a good education unless you're bright. So if you're not bright and your family doesn't have a lot of money, you're destined to fail, and that's really really not a good thing. So there's also the priority. A very high priority is not given to education in the country. We focus on a lot of different things, which I'm not going to begin to call them off because I don't want to I don't want to start anything that I can't finish. But priority, you hear about funding, and I'm sure this happens in a lot of the other countries as well. When you hear about funding, it goes towards things that we can do without, even if temporarily they're not the most important things to be focused on. So that has been a major issue. But what I do is wait, sorry, I missed out one. Another key point is the transparency of the government. It is extremely difficult to get access to statistics for education here in the Bahamas. I had no idea until I actually went out and I tried to get it. So in order to find out how the students do in the national exams, and you would just have to happen to hear the Minister of Education maybe make an address to the public, and he just happened to mention some statistics, or you may read a paper where someone has gotten access to it somehow. But I think that if it's a democratic country, then we should be able to have access to all of our education statistics because then that gives us somewhere to start. We can only go by really what we see and what we tend to hear and what we see repeating, but it's really difficult to get solid evidence to say to work off of. And what I do now is I founded a nonprofit organization. It's called For Life Outreach Center, and what we do is we reach out to those students. We haven't even been able to expand to the students who haven't access to education, a regular access, and don't do well, because we really need statistics in order to step into that field and to see where to work from. So we work in children's homes and orphanages, and we go there because although they have a good number of students that are enrolled in school, the students would have gotten enrolled in school after they came to the home. So if it's a 9, a 10, 11, 12-year-old and they just got sent to the home, there are a lot of cases where that is their first time being in school. And then it goes all the way back to the first issue where the students who aren't as bright because of their lack of access to education in the past, they're destined to fail. They get passed along from grade to grade, and it doesn't matter how they do, even if they completely fail, they advance to the next grade. So what we do is we go into the children's homes, and if we can, we find work that suits the level of the student. So we do assessments with them and we try to see where they're at. But the difficulty is that there's only so much that you can do, and there are many kids living in the home, so it's really difficult for us to be able to reach all of them because we do other things. A lot of the volunteers of the organization, they go to college full time, or they work full time, or they go to college and they work full time. And we have probably just one person who is becoming an actual teacher. So we have other things that we need to focus on. It literally would take all of our time to be able to regularly teach these students to bring them up to the level they need to get to, which is why we advocate for education, because we need our government to take a stand for these students and these children that are just being left behind. So, as Bahamians would say, that is my 5 cents. And what I think, I have a question for you, Tyrell, before we go on. I don't know if you have had access to a lot of the statistics for education in Trinidad and Tobago, but I would like for you to expand a bit more on exactly some of the problems that are faced there when it comes to maybe education or access to it or even rights, or if there's anything of that nature.
Okay. Well, I do not have the exact statistics of the educational system in Trinidad and Tobago, but the government of Trinidad and Tobago contributes a lot of money from the budget towards education, but there is
But I would like to expand a bit more on exactly some of the
okay.
problems that are education or services, right?
Okay, cool.
Um, I think someone's mic is rebuilt. Okay. Did you wanted to say, Tyrell? I'm sorry.
Okay, I do not have the exact statistics of the system in Trinidad and Tobago, but I do know that the government contributes a lot of money towards education. When it comes to problems in education, it would have to be like affordability, like whether people can afford to send their children to school because the cost of like book, school uniform, and so on to maintain children in school is high. Um, Access to probably tertiary education and the attitudes of parents towards education is another problem. So I don't know the exact numbers, but there is a high percentage of children who are not in school and who do not have access to education. In recent months, like numerous problems plaguing the educational system have been like featured on the news and so on in Trinidad and Tobago. So hopefully by the time we have a next hangout, I could have like some concrete statistics and talking points. Right now, that's like the most I could say on the issue.
Okay, great. And Imara, I wanted to ask you as well. I find here in the Bahamas, it's not very easy for us to get a voice out to the government. I've had a lot of support from a lot of different people that have good standing in the community, but being able to reach out directly per se to the Ministry of Education or the Ministry of Youth or anything that deals with youth and child development has been really tedious and has been difficult for me to do. I wanted to know for you in Guyana, and with all the wonderful work that you do, how has it been being supported by the government?
Hello?
Your microphone is muted, sorry.
Trying to mute it.
Okay, you can go ahead.
Hello? Can you hear me? Hello?
Okay, you're good now.
Okay,
Yes.
good. Thank you for your question. I
Yes.
found generally the government tends to be receptive on the face of things, but then generally not, because when it goes into getting into a deeper discussion on how do we truly affect change, there's a lack of political will involved. I think especially with what Leroy had highlighted about people living with disabilities, they're often very marginalized as a group. um, I've been working with Gifted Hands Learning Center. That's one of the places that works with autistic children and children across that spectrum. They haven't had very much government support, and it's something that you need to raise public awareness about. And I believe that the best way for Caribbean youth, especially, to do it, and the way that I've done it, is to go to the media. You write things in the newspaper, opinion columns, put press releases about the work that you're doing in the communities. By all means, go to the communities and ask them what they need, how they think it can be accomplished. Make partnerships, even if you don't know um, who who's running the different companies. Go to the private sector. I've partnered with private sector, government, other NGOs. It doesn't even need to be um, education per se. Like you can partner with environment because it's a cross-cutting kind of education that you're trying to bring to people, and that will strengthen your network when you're trying to organize events, when you're trying to reach more young people in more communities, so that you can really know what they need, address their need, and tailor the response to the different target groups that you want to educate. But really, when it comes to school education, primary school and secondary school education, it needs to have political will behind it from the government. Policies need to be put in place. You were talking about, Stefan, you were talking about the fact that the teachers don't really take very much of an interest in the students, but also the fact that we don't have the qualified teachers and that children are promoted. We had a policy called No Child Left Behind. This policy saw children just being promoted and promoted and promoted and being completely quite illiterate. And I'm being frank, they're quite illiterate. I've gone to many schools across the country to administer surveys, and this was with the Ministry of Health and Human Services Men's Affairs Bureau. And there were confidential surveys, and you'd give the surveys to the children. It was to try and find out levels of abuse um, and domestic violence and what their experiences were, and you'd give it to them and they couldn't write anything, and you'd go to them and they just turn to you and say, I can't read this, I can't write my name, and they're in fourth form. which would be like your grade 11. It's unacceptable. But the teachers have no interest and they're not trained. And it's a structural thing. It needs more than just youth advocacy. It needs political will. It needs societal will to move the education agenda forward to where it needs to be for these young people, because we really need to arm them for their future. Hello?
I totally agree. And what I realized is that when you present something like that to a lot of teachers, when you say that they seem to not be interested, and because you can have two teachers that have undergone the same training, have been to the same colleges, but one just lacks that passion and that drive to reach really out to the students, and is now becoming a complaint that the students are just not interested. And the what I what my take is on students not being interested is that that's one of those things where it's just the way life is. As though teachers should also be trained to handle students that are not interested. What can be done to engage these students to get them thinking and to get them learning? Because in my organization, I do a lot of work with kids, and it is a religious organization as well. And you will find that some kids just are not interested in hearing about certain spiritual things. And in order to engage them, it's not just like they're not interested, so I'm not going to bother. What I would do is I find what they're interested in. For example, I find that when younger kids are playing and they're having fun, they're very receptive to what it is that you're trying to teach them, and they learn much easier. And that's just a really quick example of the things that we can do, and that I'm sure have already been thought about, have already been put in place and included in education degree programs, but we're just not seeing it. And I I really think that better needs to be done. But I don't want to step into the solutions part of it just yet. We have the Global Youth Ambassador Janelle from Jamaica. I think she's here. I want to see if she can join in on the call now. Well, I don't see her actually. Oh, okay. There she is. So what I've asked them, I'm not sure if we were part of the conversation. Anyone else was, you can tell your name and your country and what are the main education issues in your country. And you can to say what it is that you do or what it is that you would like to do in order to see a change and to make a difference in your country.
Okay, good night, everyone. Well, I am a guidance counselor by profession. I work with students, teach both at the primary and secondary level, currently teaching at the secondary level. And the major problem I find is that we have policies here in Jamaica, a lot of good policies, but the problem is that they are not enforced. Because at the moment we have a lot of students who are not attending school. And that is a major concern because if they are not attending school, while there's quality of education being offered at the secondary level, students are not there to receive this education. And yes, the law states that if the students are not in school for more than absent for more than 3 days, then the matter should report to the relevant authorities. But a lot of persons don't enforce such a law. So you have students being absent for up to 5 months, and then nobody knows until it's sometimes too late. And then the biggest problem, I believe, we have a lot of students, especially our young ladies, being lost to teenage pregnancy. And when this happens, they are not reintegrated into the school system automatically because a lot of the cases are not reported. But recently, we had a new policy that states that once after the child has had the baby, the female has the baby, she is expected to go back to school. And during her time, she would be enrolled in the Women's Center. That's a step forward for us here in Jamaica. So we are not losing our teenage mothers. They can come back into the school system by law. There's a space there for them. But I think that the government need to enforce these policies because they're there, but they're not being enforced. And yes, I believe that greater partnership with the private organization as a global youth ambassador for Jamaica is a step that I really want to take. So I really want to put myself out there so that I can try as much as possible, try and enforce these policies, work with the relevant stakeholders. But I do think that within the Caribbean we share similar problems, and I would love for us to work together to create possible solutions. Hello.
Okay, great. My apologies. Okay, I got that. That's amazing. That's really interesting to hear because we also have uh, a problem with teenage pregnancy here in the Bahamas, but they do have options. So there are particular institutions that they can go to while they are pregnant, and also after they have the baby that they can do to get back into school. But it's really interesting to hear that on some level, so many of the situations that we face are very similar. And we have another ambassador who should be joining us shortly, but because it's already almost been an hour, I think it's a good idea for us to begin to talk about the solutions now, to talk about the positive, because hearing the negative is one thing, but to be able to see that little ray of hope, to say that we can work together and we can get other young people involved, because I think that it's very important for us as global youth ambassadors to engage other youth, other young adults, other people who will be able to assist us and to go forth with us, because it's definitely a load that we can't carry by ourselves. And very importantly as well, ways in which we as Caribbean Global Youth Ambassadors can collaborate and can assist each other in the overall cause. So anyone who has had anything that I'm sure a lot of you have had ideas. I've been hearing them over the past few weeks. So anyone who has any suggestions or anything that they want to share, no matter how big or how small it is, because I believe that with passionate people, things happen. So once we can get the thoughts and the ideas out there, it's just a matter of time before we can really see them begin to come into play.
Okay. Can you hear me? Hello?
Yes.
Okay. So, as you know, I
Yes.
am I am huge on mobilization. I'm huge on community outreach. I'm huge on partnerships. Can't emphasize enough the need. You guys, if you haven't gotten this or read this yet, do it. Please do so. It has all the ways that we can mobilize right here, literally on the silver platter, for all the things that we can do in our communities. Like I said, um, and really, I kind of went off on a tangent with my comment, but what I wanted to really emphasize was that when I started doing human rights work and advocacy work for women and girls, I've been the youngest person in the room. And I know that you will find that you will be the youngest person in the room when you go and you approach government officials, thought leaders, stakeholders, But you know what? Go for it, because you never know what you can achieve until you go and do it. Write letters, as many letters as possible to the widest range of stakeholders possible, and see what kind of response you're going to get. And what's worked for me, even if they don't answer the letters right away or the emails right away, go in person and say, this is why I'm here. This is what we can do together. And eventually, people will start listening to you. And even if they don't, you have to continue going. And I think that's one of the things, youth don't know their strength. And we have so much power when we come together, and what we can accomplish alone as well can be really amazing. So really, I say to you, mobilize in your communities. Start your own projects. I've done the community libraries. Um, I raised over 750 books in 1 week to begin the first library for the women and girls in Berbice. These things can be done. Don't think that any project is too big. I'm climbing Mount Roraima for different causes in September and doing a short film about it that I intend to share and put in the media. Use the media as well to your advantage. Write letters to the editor. Start your own column to talk about education or any other issues that you're passionate about, and really go into communities. Even found your own NGO. I run my own NGO. You're never too young to start change, and remember, it begins with you. I can't emphasize that enough. We can do so much together, and I'm so happy that we've been able to meet on this call to start the discussion.
Wow. Wow, that's truly inspiring because you started off by saying that you will find that you're the youngest person in the room.
Yep.
And I cannot tell you the countless amounts of times that I have been the youngest person in the room. In fact, in my organization, I that my NGO that I found that I'm actually the youngest person that is affiliated with the organization. And I don't mean that boastfully, but I think that can really go to inspire people to know that age is definitely not a limit. The negativity is gonna come. People are gonna automatically assume that you're unsettled and you just want to jump up and say the word because you're young. But I've experienced the same thing as to where I'm in a room with some pretty big names, and I the age difference is like incredible. But I really think that it's the confidence in knowing that what you're doing is not for yourself, but to make a difference for your country. And earlier you made the point that so many people just get up and they leave to go off to greener pastures, I guess. And the exact same thing happens here every day. And I admire the fact that we have before us a group of people. We could have done so many things there. There are numerous opportunities to travel and to go to different countries, especially even among the global youth ambassadors. And not saying that we won't take advantage of those opportunities, but here we are on the International Day of the African Child, and we decided that we would do something within our region. Whether we traveled or not, we would be a part of this movement. So I think that that is very admirable, and I've seen the toolkit. It is amazing. Just like you said, everything that you could possibly need. They really outdid themselves with the toolkit, and it was a long time coming, and people were beginning to get impatient. But when you actually go through it, you do see why it took so much time, because they put a considerable amount of thought into it. And I'm not sure if Leroy can hear me right now because he's connected to me through Skype, but
Yeah,
I know that he has something that he would like to share in regards to the solutions and partnering as well.
yeah, definitely. Step one. I certainly been seeking from the strong point of person, whether it's to be to help out the education crisis that persons with disability face on a day-to-day basis again. And I strongly believe and recommend that a strong relationship developed between the disability community and the leaders of those disabled organizations and the Minister of Education or ministers of the government, not to only ensure that education in itself is enhanced or improved for children attending schools, those are, who are disabled, to have a better academic life, but in other aspects of life, they can also benefit from. Once that is achieved, I believe you'll see the changes coming nicely, and life would start to go on a different side for those disabled persons. And there's a lot of persons with disabilities not able to go to school, and those who are able to go to school are not receiving full attention from teachers. Why? Not the teacher's fault, but it's the fault that the government is not training these teachers in order to have the right knowledge to work with persons with disabilities. So they go into class with these disabled students and look completely, wow, I don't know how to work with you. You're blind. How do I get word over to you? He or she has a hearing impairment. How do you get across the math notes or the English notes to that boy or girl in the class? That is the area, or those are some of the things that governments can put into place. You need to see sign language interpreters in the schools to communicate what is being taught in the classrooms to those hearing impaired students. For wheelchair users, government needs to ensure that building schools, in particularly, are built or designed in a way that these wheelchair persons can access it. Not only them, it needs ramps that accommodate for the wheelchair users and rails, even in those rooms as well. You definitely need braille, something that the blind and visually impaired users use to get their work done. And then it goes on and on to hearing impaired persons. You need language interpreters, and you need all your stuff to give directions to the different persons with disabilities. But we can talk a lot about this, but when once that happens, I believe we can get huge change in the educational sector in our country, not only here in the Caribbean and globally. And continuing on another point, we as youth ambassadors of the world of school, I believe since we're from the Caribbean, we somehow can work together because the issues and challenges, basically what we face in our individual or respective countries, are same or similar in some way in the other regions. Thus, we can work together in alleviating those difficulties and breaking those barriers down. So I feel in the future, whether our year is up from being a youth ambassador as our first term, we all, if we're passionate about what we do, we can go on to sign up for another year and more to continue working as youth ambassador to the world to ensure that education or standard all who's not achieving education achieve next year or so. It's something we need to work on. I need to sign you put all your attention on education and children with disabilities including too. And trust me, this, I don't know what else I can say, but I feel if the youth ambassadors can visit countries that have ambassadors, if we can have group visits. I mean, if those from Barbados, Trinidad, Tobago, and Jamaica can visit Guyana to work along with me to do meetings with our education ministry to help, adjust some of the school curriculum over here, or talk about the ways in which we can make the school accessible or make education inclusive for all. And you have the same thing happening over again in the different countries till you reach somewhere that the changes that we need, and that's it too. We can see them, we can feel them. We can be talking about it each day on the internet. I think that's all for me for tonight.
Well, I definitely agree with everything that you said, and uh, before I ask someone else, what I really want to ask is one of the barriers with children and persons with disabilities in education, especially being among the other students that do not have disabilities, there is the issue of being that black sheep, for lack of a better term, that person that's looked at, that's picked on because of this. Do you I'm sure that this is something that you've had to deal with, and something that you've considered. What are your thoughts on being able to maybe alleviate some of the pressure in that regard?
Are you directing that question to Stefan?
Yes.
Could you repeat it one more time for me, please?
Basically, I'm asking that what do you think is a way that we can work against people, students discriminating in a sense against other students with disabilities, because that's also a barrier that stands in the way.
Correct. Stigmatic discrimination is often experienced every day by persons with disabilities, and it's a part of what I work on, in my life each day. Because when I go places and persons try to discriminate against, me on the count of my disability, I basically show them what I can do. Because as a person with disability, when you go places, persons think less of you. And to be quite honest, there's a lot of very intelligent persons with disabilities in this world today, not only the Caribbean, but you're not seeing these people. And if you see them, they're in small numbers. And that's because they're not given the proper opportunity to show what they have, show what they're capable of. Hence, they're hidden in the homes, and they're also hidden in the homes because they're paid as to how them, and in return they're keeping them at home because of the shame of the neighbors being watching at them and talking about their child being one with a disability, so they're shy about walking around with them. Take for example, in Guyana, we have a lot of discrimination happening, and when it comes to education, you find it happening a lot in the schools. And if we're narrowed to blind persons, a lot of persons who are not disabled sit against persons who are visually impaired. And if you look today, a lot of persons in schools wear shades or spectacles. What is that leading towards? I don't mean to say they will eventually go home, but they are now experiencing sight problems. And I definitely believe that the gap between disabled persons and non-disabled people has to tighten a bit more. You need to have a lot of friendship rising between that gap, and you definitely see a complete alleviation of discrimination against persons with disabilities coming from the non-disabled people.
Wow. Wow. Um, I totally understand, and like I say, I honestly and truly do respect what you're doing and what you've had to adjust to and have to deal with over all these years. And I want to now ask Janelle to share what her views are on with some solutions, getting people involved in, and like I said, very importantly, getting each other involved in what we're doing, standing together as a force for educational rights.
Okay, thanks. I believe as global youth ambassadors, we need to work together. We definitely need to work together if we are going to fix the problem. And I believe that as it's Imram, as she said that one of the problem that we face is that we don't stand up enough, and I think that if we are bold enough to say, all right, then this is what I believe in because I'm very, very passionate about the education system. Anyone who knows me knows that about me. I'm very passionate about it. So I will definitely be working with the Ministry of Education, the Ministry of Youth and Culture, because given in my capacity as festival queen, it gives me that platform to work with the youths both on the community level, on the parish level, and nationally. And I'm also a part of the National Youth Council for Jamaica. The problem that I see, though, as I said before, is really getting major stakeholders, especially the ministers of various various ministries, particularly Minister of Education, the Minister of Youth and Culture, to recognize the importance of our role. And I have already established some persons because I'm the only person, the only global youth ambassador from Jamaica, which I find it challenging. However, there are persons who are excited, and that's good. They're excited about being a part of the mission, a part of the vision. They share the same vision in creating a better Jamaica in terms of education, the quality of education. And I would definitely work with all the other Caribbean global youth ambassadors, particularly because we share similar problems. And I know if we work together, two heads is better than one. So I know that we can come up with solution, even though we may be from different countries, but the problems we face are similar. And just to point out on the disability situation here in Jamaica, I think that yes, we have the discrimination against students who are disabled, but having worked in the education system for probably the past 9 years, I realized one of the challenge is that we don't have teachers who are adequately trained to address these issues because a child who is autistic among a group of, let's say, because the average ratio per teacher students is like 40 to one teacher here, and you have one child in the class who is autistic, and you have the 39 others. This teacher does not know how to deal with this autistic child, the child who has attention deficit disorder, the child who has bipolar, and at the same time is going to be said that you can't turn them out because there's no space. There are some institutions that there's just no space for them to go. But the teachers really, I believe, a part of the solution is to employ a specialist who can deal with these students because at times teachers really become frustrated because they really don't know how to deal with these issues. So that's the thing, and as I said, I'm more empowered now than ever before because I'll be definitely working with the ministry. I have an appointment to see the director of education on Thursday because I wanted to speak with her directly. And that is my thing here for the region because I want to let my presence be felt. Because, yes, as my fellow ambassador said, there are times when you do write letters, you do send emails, but you don't get a response. So don't be discouraged. Try meet in person because I realize that meeting in person makes a whole lot of difference. So I just say to everyone, keep empowered. There are going to be challenges along the way, but if we stick together, if we keep motivating each other, great things can be accomplished. So just thanks for everything, guys.
Well, like you, when I hear you guys speak, I truly understand why it is that this group of dynamic people was selected to do this because every time someone speaks, I just feel more and more empowered to do more. Just to strive and to reach for higher heights. So Tyrell, you're up next. Anything that you would like to share about these solutions and these partnerships? And I'm just so eager to hear more about it.
Okay, as it comes to solutions along the line of what Imara said, I think the community will have a huge part to play in this because if we can go to the communities and find out the problems from persons there, which is what the governments are supposed to be doing, if the governments can't do it and it have that gap to connect with the grassroots, we could probably play a role in like going out there and finding out the issues that parents face, the students face, the teachers in the community face. We can go there and get the information and try to present what we have found to like the governments and so on because the governments play a major role in this and if they cannot do their role, I think we'll have to pick up where they have left off and I think the community will definitely play a huge role in this. So like if we can have like community meetings in all our communities, that would be very good and try to connect with the people and find out what is the problem because we cannot like all of you all have very ambitious ideas, but we can't like say, well, okay, go to the governments or like write letters. We need to find out first what is the problems that people are facing. So definitely connecting with the grassroots and finding out their issues would be a solution to it. And try to directly deal with that.
Wow. And I completely agree because I feel as though on top of the fact that there is a lack of access to statistics here in the Bahamas, we have the fact that any statistics are liable to be inaccurate. So what better way than like you and Imara both shared community mobilization and community work from the ground and actually going out to these people and asking them what the problems are. And because all of you have shared what all of you have said has led me to think really big. And this is not something that I pre-wrote, but what I think would be something definitely to look into would be coming up with some education policy for that can be presented to the governments that that would entail all of the problems that we find. Now, as we all know, that is a really really big goal, and that is something that will take a lot of time and a lot of effort. And if we wanna present something to them, we have to bring them something that they don't already know, which would then come from going out into the community and finding out this information for ourselves. So we would all have to lead individual, not individual as in only us, but surveys in our respective countries and things of that nature. But my idea is that maybe somehow if we can get these surveys or we can hit these key areas that need it the most, because the education system is not good, but there are some places that need immediate attention. So I think that is really really crucial for us to go out and find those areas that need the attention and to strike those areas first. And maybe if we could come up with strategic questionnaires that don't have to be very detailed, but just something that will give us enough of an idea, a little more than a basic idea, but enough of an idea to come up with feasible, affordable solutions that can be implemented with the assistance of not only the government but also private delegates and stakeholders. I think that that's something that can actually be very very possible. So I don't know if anybody how you guys feel about something along that line. Because what I really wanted to be able to conclude with by the end of the night was something that we could look at, that we could go forward on, that we could get in contact with each other and say, well, that's the direction that we want to head in.
I think something we should consider or place in our discussion of priorities is try to bridge the gap between the disabled people and non-disabled people in the schools. Secondly, we need to reduce the amount of children who are not able to attend school. That number has to reduce significantly, um, almost, very, very soon. So I think that should be our top, priority to work on in enrolling children into schools more and to have them learn rather than to stay at home or be somewhere else, putting their lives at risk. Those are two major things I think we should seriously focus on as a start. And to add to that, I believe we should, as ambassadors of the Caribbean, to create some sort of mailing address so we can communicate among ourselves. And if there's need for external assistance from Chernobyl or the others from our world at school, then we can forward them emails and include them on our list here in the Caribbean. We all can work and achieve possible goals we set out. I strongly believe so.
At the same time, point, anyone who wants to can add, because I'm writing because I want to make sure that these things are documented.
Hello? Can
Yes.
you hear me? Okay, so I'm all for the survey design. The only thing is that our countries, even though we share similar issues, we have it on different scales. That's something we'd have to take into consideration when doing the survey design. But I'm up for that because I have that skill. So we can definitely do that and start to plan that as something that we can present to our governments, or present to NGOs who may have that kind of pull, or people that we know in our networks. My other suggestion would be doing a social media campaign. Um, as great as it is, I'm a pragmatist when it comes to the fact that yes, we're all in the same region, but funding is an issue for us all to come together physically. This Google Hangout is a great start for us to collaborate and talk about collaboration. But if we can hold something like an online caucus on education, it'll be very similar to this Hangout, but inviting like other youth groups to discuss the work they're doing and how we can help that or affect that could be really interesting. And really use social media and our networks, and of course plug into a world at school and all of their connections, possibly even get like Turner or the other youth advocacy group members to come on the call and give advice, talk about their experiences, and that kind of thing. I think it could be really useful. So that's my suggestion.
Before you run away, Amara, um, I just want to mention quickly, I would love to collaborate with you with some of the activities you carry on there in Region 6. I know it's quite a distance for me. I'm going to travel, but trust me, once I receive the invitation from you, which I know I will, I'll definitely find someone to accompany me to be a part of some of the events that you usually have, even to appear as a speaker to talk about education in my special field or my field being mental disability and so on. So at any time you can definitely extend the invitation and I can join your event.
You got the thumbs up.
Yeah.
Hello? Hello?
Yeah.
Oh, I was trying to unmute it. That's great. That's awesome. So I'm happy about that. We shall collaborate.
Thank you. Thank you.
Since I oh, okay, I like to use the free time that I have on my hand now to start planning my foundation, or like as Imara as an NGO. So I would like to take all like your suggestions and all the help that I could get to make it possible, because it is something I'd like to work on within the next few months. As now I can focus on my ambassador duties a little more. So that's what I like to say. And I'd like to commend all of you all on the great work you all are doing throughout the Caribbean. You all are truly making a difference.
And if I mention, guys, sorry for opening like this rudely, but I just want to mention to all those listening across the region in the Caribbean, the world, especially our Caribbean people listening, you should be proud of myself, yourselves, because next week I'll be heading to Belgium to represent the Caribbean and to talk about inclusive education in Guyana and touching it slightly on other parts of the region. There's a massive conference that will be held by the European Commission and the GPE Global Education in Belgium, in Brussels. And I will be participating and will be the first speaker to open the session on inclusive education and host a panel on the same topic. So I look forward to have you guys tweet about it. Perhaps if there's a Google Hangout so the persons can participate next Wednesday and Thursday, I'll definitely be posting it on my page, and I hope that all of you here are already connected to me on Facebook at Leroy Phillips. Definitely, you see a global youth ambassador as one of my work on my page there. And that should be it for the next week. I'm here again. I'm definitely here to add further comments.
Great. And I do greatly appreciate the fact that you will be headed to that conference. I think I think that's really commendable. A
Thank
lot
you.
of positive things are happening. And so it's been a while now since this has started, and I feel as though we really have gotten we've gotten accomplished what we set out to do. And so now I know that Janelle, you may have something that you want to share in regards to coming up with these surveys and this education policy. And I didn't say, but I do think, Imara, that the social media campaigning is going to be very crucial and very important to the cause. So before we conclude and we say in which way we will go forward with at least the initial stages of what's going to become whatever they shall become, is there something that you would like to add to it?
Okay, I've sat and I've listened, and yes, I'm all for the survey design. And I do believe, as Imar said, that social media will play a great role in all of this. And I too will be starting my foundation here in Jamaica. I am available to the government in whatever way that they want to use me in promoting education, because I'm really all for education. But as Imara rightly said, there is the range in which the problems that we are facing here in Jamaica might be different from the other Caribbean countries, but at the end of the day, we have similar problem, but the extent, we need to really research on that and come up with something that we need a proposal to bring to our relevant ministers and all of that. But as I said, social media is the way forward. So I need to hear from the other youths, especially through the being a part of the National Youth Council. I think that's a very realistic way that it can be done, reaching all 14 parishes here in Jamaica. And I would love to work with you guys. You guys have a lot of experience in your foundations and all. So when I do start, and at least through the entire process, I'm going to need you guys' help, support, and motivation, because, as I said, we need each other, because united we stand, divided we fall as a region. So, guys, let's just work together for the growth and development of the region.
That is just I'm taken aback by these things, honestly and truly, because when everybody was really excited when this initiative for the Global Youth Ambassadors was launched, and everybody wanted to know, well, what's next, and what's going to happen now, and but to be able to see things slowly but surely fall into line. I believe we started in April or around that time, and it's now June, and that's not even such a considerable amount of time, and already we're beginning to see so many things in place. If you guys check out the Facebook page of the Global Youth Ambassadors, you will see that the ambassadors from all over the world have been working tirelessly and have been hosting events, and just as we are working so hard toward these solutions, and their problems, regionally speaking, the problems are different in different parts of the world, but I can almost assume that in the different regions they face similar problems for their region as well. So it is it's great that we've been able to come together and to be able to discuss these things. And also what is really good is that the hangouts are automatically recorded and uploaded. So we will have access to this and we will be able to send the video to a world at school, and I know that eventually they'll be able to review it, but it also would serve as a reference when we move forth with these initiatives. And for Tyrell and Janelle, when you both begin to start your work, it's I'm sure you guys know that it's not easy, and the difficulties come and difficulties go, but could you imagine, you can now even come back to look at the video and to listen to the things that we've said, and we can do the same for us who are already involved in these different organizations, to be inspired to know that across the face of the Caribbean there are other people who face the same things that we are faced with. So I think that now is a good time for us to begin to conclude, and because it's getting pretty late. I know some of you have to work tomorrow, and we have different things that we need to do. But I what I will do is I've made notes, and I'm gonna write something. I don't even know what to call it because I'm just so excited about it. But I'm gonna put everything together and I'll send it to each of you along with the link for this video. But I think that we can all come to the agreement that we will spend the next few weeks or months planning these surveys that will eventually become this policy that we can implement in the Caribbean, in our different countries. And we can go through all the loopholes and find ways that we can say, like you said, the problems come on different scales in different countries, and there are different focuses that need more attention. But I think that if we work together, we can come up with ways to conquer that. And even if we assist someone else from another country with what their focus should be, just because of the experience that a lot of you have. And I think that way, once we get all of this off the ground, it will really take off very efficiently and in a timely manner. So we need a way that we can effectively connect. I think all of us have Facebook. So what would be a good idea is to have a Facebook thread that all of us can be a part of. There are two other ambassadors that could not join us tonight, but we would be able to hear from them. I think they're both from Grenada, if I remember correctly, but I could be wrong. But I will do my best to get the thread up and going from tonight, even as we conclude, so that we can maybe continue the discussion privately, because we don't want the hangout to drag on for too long, just for purposes for when we have to come back to it and sharing it. But I appreciate all of the efforts, and I want to once again encourage all of you to reach for it. It doesn't matter where you are, because like some of you haven't started, and you have these plans, but the main thing is the passion to do it, because passion is something that you have to hold on to, because once it goes away, that you won't get anything done. So I just want to encourage you guys to stay passionate, and if anyone else has any last words of encouragement or whatever to share before we conclude, now would be the time to do so.
So it has to be me, right? With all that I've said, I guess it's gonna be me. Um, Use my example. We're here to support each other. We have a network of 500 people. 500 people. Think of what we can do with 500 people, not just people in our group. I encourage you guys to connect with each other. We have Facebook, we have Twitter, we have every kind of social media open to us. We have the world open to us, which is a mind blowing idea. We have the passion, the ability, and of course, the intelligence and the knowledge of our region and what young people need. So we're equipped with everything. It's just about how we're going to use it. So I encourage you all to think about how we can use this to benefit our communities and our families and ourselves and everyone we know, because we truly can make a difference. Remember, it starts with you. I hope you have a great night. I really enjoyed this. So bring on the collaboration.
Go ahead, Leroy.
Sorry about that. I just want to encourage everyone in the group listening to us and even other parts of the world who are youth ambassadors. You know, we all are working as a team, and whatever we do as a team, we achieve as a team, we discuss as a team, we go forward as a team. When we don't, we fall as a team. And in our efforts to get back up, we do that as a team. So I just want to encourage all to go after what the organization or the group aims, to achieve, and remain passionate and resistant about whatever you want.
Definitely. I completely agree with that.
Okay, guys, so I'm on.
Yes.
Okay, so my final word to everyone is that just let us just continue to work as a team. We're from one region, and I think the WhatsApp group, it's a great way. We basically communicate every day. But for Iram, I'm not getting through to your WhatsApp, so I'd love for you to contact me so that I can sort that out, because I'm not getting you. When I'm adding you, I don't know what's the problem, but I love to add you to the WhatsApp group for the Caribbean, but I don't know what's happening. So I'll keep trying and let's see what happens. But guys, I really enjoy this. Really feel inspired and empowered after this, and can guarantee, we will be on the map as a Jamaica, as Jamaicans, as a country, pushing forward for better education, quality education, and education for us. So thanks, guys, so much for inspiring me.
Okay, I'll just like to close by saying that the momentum we are building here is very positive, and I look forward in the next few months to see all the great work we can do together. You guys have some really good ideas, and I am willing to collaborate and help in any way possible.
Oh, great, great. Just everyone else's. I am glad that this happened. At first, there were some technical difficulties, and for a moment, I was like, "Oh no!" But at the end of the day, we made it happen, and this a good start. I think a good start is all you really need. So now that we have this momentum going, the next thing to do would be to keep this momentum going and to make sure that we don't fall off and we don't fall to the wayside and let things not happen. But I believe that working in this field and having this interest and this passion, we've all had it happen to us. Like Imar, you said near the very beginning that at first people are on board and after a while it dwindles away. I've had countless people promise me fully that they would assist me with everything that I was doing, and then it gets to you after a while because you feel as though people are uninterested. But I want everybody to to keep strong and to keep fighting for the educational rights of children in the Caribbean, which is our region. But we're doing this on a global scale as global youth ambassadors. So one step at a time, I know that we definitely are making differences in the global community. So I think with that, we will close. And Imara, you definitely should contact Tyrell about getting into the group because there was a problem with that. But I yeah, we can continue just anything else that needs to be said in on via social media somehow. I have you on Facebook, Imara's group, and Yes, so I thank you guys so much for being a part of this because I I definitely I had no time to do anything else, so any other event I do will have to be in the future, but this has definitely been something that was worth it and that has been successful in its attempt to commemorate the oh great sorry the International Day of the African Child. So you guys take care and be encouraged. I'm gonna end the broadcast.